Hey, this week on Bros, Bibles, and Beer.
When's the last time you guys raised money off of the N-word?
Glad you could join us, Jeff.
I know that gets me to a great place. Gets me to a great place with the King, and that's all that matters.
I'm not like in the seas of relativism. Oh my God.
Well, a lot of times it feels that way. It's
One of us sharing vulnerability with the other opens up the doors for the other person to do that too.
I don't like my wife saying that because my wife is a strong woman.
people that are coming
I'm
here
not,
that
that's a
want to
different.
change.
You're moving the
No,
goalpost.
it's not.
You're moving the goalpost.
No, because
So by those definitions, I am a Christian nationalist.
Well, listeners and watchers, thanks for tuning in. This is Bros, Bibles, and Beer. We are a podcast where we talk about things like faith and culture, and they're serious conversations without taking ourselves too seriously. I am joined by my friends and co-hosts, Zack Crater.
Could you just create a? I'm trying to avoid hard R's.
Yeah, and Jeff
Keep it
Pierce.
safe.
Jeff Pearson. Pearson. How's that?
the son of the pair. Pearson. I don't know what my
You
father
sound like
is.
a kid with a speech impediment. Palthin.
Palthin. I was trying to do this a soft R.
Soft R's. Gotta keep it safe.
And we're joined by a good friend, local bro as well, and pastor of disaster,
father,
professional
husband.
Christian Carey Robinson.
Glad to be here.
Professional Christian. When did you get your license as a professional Christian?
1999 or 2000, I forget specifically.
And that did so much for you.
yeah.
It made
Dude, you were a baby.
Yeah. 19 or 20. Licensed, ordained at 21.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which church?
It's no longer in existence. It was called Church on the Rock North.
So
in Carrollton, Texas.
Ricky's Church.
Yeah, Ricky's
Yeah.
church.
if you're not first, you're last.
So
Yeah.
in Texas, they weren't down with the North. Is that
You
what
know
you're saying?
what? They were not. They were over it. And yeah, it's a long story. We could do that on another podcast if you want to.
We don't want to talk about your failures right at the beginning.
Oh, it's not. I didn't pastor the church. I was on staff at the church. So
yeah, but then it.
Then it just went to hell.
Well,
thank
I
you,
left.
thank you, Zach.
I moved to Arizona and then it went to hell. Yeah.
Hey, if you're not first,
you're last.
you're last.
Nothing against those people. I'm sure there's very fine people on all the sides of that equation. But I'm sure they're great.
Should we all go around and talk about how much we've had to drink today?
I've had 0 minus coffee.
All right, that's good.
Yeah.
This is number 1.
Okay.
I'm getting
okay.
started here.
Okay.
Others?
Zach?
Number 1 was a couple hours ago, so this is number 2.
Yeah, and then
Jeff.
Jeff.
Just weird mouth faces for the listening audience. Can I get us started with corrections and retractions?
Yes, we can do that. Let's do it.
So last time there was some venting about knowing too much in church on the last episode. And what do you do when you know too much in church? And would you just prefer ignorance, or would you prefer the knowing that can be very difficult when you know the ins and outs of what's going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, right. Like if you're on the overseer board,
Right.
if you know, like I know all of this, and this is just dragging me down in terms of like just being part of this church.
And so Jeff, former overseer, Andy, current overseer, and future former overseer, very soon. You can almost exhale. You're almost there. We're kind of venting the last episode, and obviously if you haven't listened to it, go back and do it. But my wife was also on the board, and one thing I asked Jeff when you were talking, like, weren't you guys on the board together? And I couldn't remember. It's been a while.
And I was like,
That's on me. I should have remembered.
I don't remember anything. So I'm like, no, that would never have been a board for me.
Yes. And then Lisa, after the episode, shared this picture of me, to me, of the board when she got elected, and you were one of the voting people that elected her to the board. And there's Jeff Pierce. Look at that young Jeff Pearson.
God,
Look at that dimple.
Jesus.
What a beautiful, beautiful man.
Gosh, back then I was a beautiful man.
But
I don't even know, what is that sweatshirt I'm wearing?
Depactive.
I don't even remember any of this.
I think it says impacted. So is it true or false? Were you so traumatized by that experience that you literally burned it from your memory of being on the board, with a woman.
Voting her in.
Okay, it literally wasn't being on the board with a woman. It was being just
On the board in general.
Who was
I'm being a dick.
Right. No,
I'm being
no,
a dick.
and I
I didn't remember either.
ultimately, because my wife asked me, I just asked you that. I'm like, I totally forgot. And I'm like, when that came up and it was mentioned that, do you realize you were on the board with her for a year, I think, at least? And I'm like, scorched earth. Like, that is not a time I remember. And I think I said the last podcast, it wouldn't be a podcast, or it wouldn't be a podcast. It wouldn't be a board I'd be on. But I was, and I think that factual, I was. So
What are you trying to say right now?
well, strike. Essentially, it was like my beliefs now, and maybe then, but I was so green that ultimately I'm like, I'm not in a position. Should have never been on an overseer board. And I'm not speaking of my time now, because now I would love to be and to pray for people of
You
our
just
congregation.
missed the nomination process,
but,
Jeff.
But back then,
No, you wouldn't. You would not want to be.
but back then, it was scorched earth for me. I'm like the first year.
What does that mean, scorched earth?
Scorched earth, like, this is not what I signed up for.
Well, we kind of did that.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
I mean,
You don't rehash it.
Just a very brief, like, it was
Not what you expected.
It was not what I signed up for.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's it.
It's fair.
So,
And you and Lisa kind of worked it out. There was some communication that went.
A joyful tears, literally speechless. I'm like, your wife said, "You're my brother in Christ," and I just about lost it. I'm like, this is what being a believer is about. It's truly about people forgiving for just stuff that
It's great.
it matters, but it doesn't matter, but it matters a whole lot. It's the little things that, like, will you forgive me? And I have a, it shines a little bit of a light on who I am as a person. I'm very competitive. I don't want to be wrong. And it's different when you want to win and when you don't want to be wrong. And a little bit of that's been passed on to me through my life, through family. It's like, we're not wrong. And when we are wrong, we have a very difficult time admitting that we're wrong. And that's kind of where I found myself, in kind of crapping on somebody that I love. And I'm like, oh man, this is really tough. Like, I don't like being called out on something that I'm wrong. And I, after just grilling myself, I'm like, gosh darn it, I'm wrong. And I got to admit this, and this is really hard. And it's hurting my, even, I mean, I don't think now I'm pretty relaxed. I'm like, okay, because the best thing is this person forgave me. So, and that was Lisa. That was your wife, Zach. So it's like, it was a good moment. It was a good moment, and I love you guys. And it's like, just one little comment can just be a knife through someone's heart or in their back. And they're just like, how could you do that to me? I'm like, oh God, why did I do that? So
Yeah.
Enough said.
Yeah. I wish my memory was better of the time, and also when you're podcasting in real time, I confess, sometimes I'm like hyper present, and sometimes part of my bandwidth is listening, and part of my bandwidth is like, what are we getting to next? Mm-hmm. And so in real time, you miss things, and there could have been like a real time corrections and retractions if I was more on the ball. But water under the bridge.
It is, and
that's great.
Thank God. Anyway, so now on to the lightning that will strike Carey.
Hold on.
Okay. So, do I need to apologize to someone now? Is it my turn?
We'll see.
This is intervention.
Okay. All right.
No.
What are we intervening?
I have a palate cleanser. When's the last time you guys raised money off of the N-word?
Oh my gosh.
Like,
Is this about Kanye and his
Which
new
N
song?
word?
like I
No, we can go there too, man.
Man.
There is shit going around right now.
Really? How
Do
do you find this stuff?
Have you not heard Kanye's new drop?
No.
It's only on Twitter now.
Have you not
I
heard? Do you not know?
It's on Spotify, I believe.
I think it got pulled.
I just listened to it today.
Okay, maybe it's not pulled then.
Or unless there's another
thought it
song
was
that's
pulled.
just as egregious as whatever the one I haven't heard.
Can you go ahead and do you want to do some rap singing for us?
No, I do not. Forrest. No.
I love how you said that. Would you like to do some rap
I tried to say
singing
it
for
in
us?
the whitest way
Would you like for me
possible.
to drop some beats?
Okay, so woman caught in inward tirade in Rochester raises. Oh, if you saw it,
I
don't
didn't
say
see it.
anything. I want you guys to guess. So, a woman was at a park in Rochester, and a video recorded at a Rochester, Minnesota playground of a woman repeatedly shouting a racial slur has garnered strong responses from activist groups. The video captures. The guy who videotaped it was named Sharmake Omar,
Of course.
confronting a woman about calling his child the N-word at Roy Sutherland Playground. The woman appears to call, doesn't appear, she does, and she basically cops to it and then does it some more. The woman accused the boy of stealing from her child's diaper bag. Anyway, she started the fundraiser to help protect her in response to the video going viral because she sensed a cancellation approaching. I don't know what she does. I think it's just random woman on the street.
Question, is she a white woman?
Yes.
Okay.
Her
And
name is Karen.
The fundraiser has raised how much so far?
Oh, I like this game.
Is this Price is Right
This
rules?
is good.
It happened last month,
It happened last month.
and it did get talked up. A little hint: Matt Walsh
What is she raising it for?
for herself.
Anti-cancellation.
So if she gets fired or can't provide,
Okay, just like her backup fund.
yeah,
Okay.
she doesn't trust her linguistic skills. I don't think to get her out of this. So
Ooh.
So she is not fundraising using the N-word. She's defending herself.
She's just giving herself a
Yes.
backup plan.
Oh.
Okay, this is her fallback.
In 1 month, I'm going to say $32,000.
okay,
Yeah.
This is a good palate cleanser, Zach. Thank
Yeah.
you.
yeah,
This
you're
is-
welcome.
This
Something
is
light.
good. Jeff?
This is for the N. Is this some
Welcome
something
back
to do
to
with
the
the N-word?
podcast.
I'm
Yeah.
glad you're I'm glad you could join us, Jeff.
All right, Andy.
I'm gonna go with $250,000.
I'm going to go with $251,000.
Price is Right
Price is Right.
rules. Jeff wins
What?
over $600,000.
Oh,
My gosh.
Now, to a little bit more of the story, the NAACP in response started a fundraiser for the man and his son,
Shocker.
and that is campaign is closed. But where's the amount? I think it was up to like 300 something.
Jeez.
But what is this more?
Are you gonna say what can we do to get our own fundraisers?
I mean, America is wild right now. She said, I mean, I promise you she's going to blow that money and family's going to come out of the woodwork and it's going to ruin her just like most lottery ticket winners they can't handle it and they get played and they lose their money.
I don't know. She sounds pretty
Hopefully-
responsible.
She does sound. What do you pay in taxes on fundraising donations like that?
Ooh,
Probably
zero. New York State. Oh, you get taxed.
No, it's
Oh,
income.
you
It's income.
definitely get taxed.
You can hide it.
Okay. That she might.
Just put it in a trust.
Jeff, you're a smart guy with access to a lot of different things. I don't know anything about this woman, but I'm guessing. Let's just say cut it in half, state and federal taxes, just about. New York State probably is pretty high tax rate. Anyways, and this is like it became this weird culture war thing where Matt Walsh, I think, said he donated and said others should too. Confession, I didn't watch the clip. I just read notes about it. Because there was another fundraiser because of another racial thing where two kids got in a fight, ended up one of them dying via stab wound.
In Plano.
Oh my gosh.
Or Frisco, Texas,
was that Carmelo Anthony was the kid's name, not the basketball player.
yeah. I think it was
same
in Frisco, Texas, yeah.
And so that kid in his defense fund raised a few $100,000. So it became this competition to raise money for one dirtbag versus like, oh, this other alleged dirtbag, the murder alleged. It's like, why are we doing this? Why can't they just both have made terrible mistakes and go through the consequences of their action? And then we get to, I don't know. It's just a weird spot we're in where we're raising money off this stuff.
Also, was there proof that the woman said what the man accused her of?
Yeah, he started filming her, and she kept saying it.
Oh,
she doubled down. Yes, that's why it's like I don't know what we're doing.
Oh man,
what lessons are we teaching the children?
I must say, I love when people double down. So she said, wait, hold on.
Okay, Kanye.
Kanye. No, we're not talking about right or wrong. We're talking about
my favorite double down.
Forget what it is. It's people's conviction. Like, I love that you're going all in. It's horrible and it's a bad choice, but you've gone all in, and I can appreciate that. It's wrong, but I don't even honestly. I like. What are we talking about? It doesn't even matter. It's like wrong, right. I believe in this. I'm doubling down.
Ted Bundy.
Slam dunk in your face.
I appreciate the passion.
Yeah. Way to go for it.
He was a passionate man.
Prison, stage left.
Mao Zedong. Yeah, he went for it, man.
A lot of passion. Strong leader. Real strong. I like my leaders strong.
Yeah, just keep
Stalin,
it going.
He was a numbers man.
I think what you're saying is you appreciate people who stick to their convictions.
I appreciate that. Absolutely.
I don't think you're saying you
I'm not
appreciate
saying
Bundy
I'm like, yeah, that's not good.
That's interesting. Do you guys appreciate that more, or someone who'd be willing to change their mind if given new information?
That's not really someone who's actually leading people, because if you change, then you're not. They're not leading.
Here we go.
Here we go. Let's toss that jump ball up there.
I'm with the second thing Andy said. I think one of the reasons I'm going to try to avoid using names of political figures, but people that don't have anyone around them. Well, actually, in our lives, let me just back it up a little bit, as I'm prone to do. In our lives, if I don't know if I can be friends with somebody, or it would be really hard to, if I knew that they had no one they answered to that could tell them no, and they would think about what they're doing. Doesn't mean they change their mind, but hey, this person I trust said, knock that shit off. You're on the wrong course. And if the person doesn't have anyone in their life like that, that's a problem.
Yep. Red flag for sure.
So, especially when it comes to people with political and spiritual power, that's where shit gets real nasty real quick. And I think we're seeing some of the fruits of that in various places around this planet we call the Earth.
Don't you feel though you can both be a person who sticks to your convictions while also being open to change and open to outside perspective? I don't know that you have to dismiss one for the other.
To somebody else's perspective, but in terms of like, oh, that's the path you take. That's great. Or I don't agree with that. That's great. And I appreciate your perspective on things, but you're not going to shift to their direction.
I don't think that's the same. I think that is by definition not being open to. I think that's empathizing and listening, but not saying, "Oh, let me explore this to see if what I hold as conviction still holds up with new information."
It would be different if you actually shifted that, but are you shifting it because it actually is right? Or
it's a valid question.
Or are you shifting it because you're just like, well, I go with the wind, and that seems like the direction that I should go because they're going with it. So that's two different things.
I hate that too.
The wishy-washiness.
Somebody that just goes like, oh, culture is all going this way. We definitely need to do that. I don't like the person that rejects something just because like the other team is doing something without thinking about it first. But also the person that's just like, when we're in stressful and strange and confusing and tumultuous times, which I think we're kind of in a wild season right now, people are drawn to confidence and strength and clarity and order. And I think we're seeing this from the top down now. And I don't think I'm not. I don't have like TDS or anything against Trump or whatever, but I don't think it's all good.
What is TDS?
Trump derangement syndrome.
Where do you guys come up with this stuff?
We're sponsored.
Okay,
Yeah.
I figured that.
This
guys-
section of the podcast is brought to you by TDS.
that's a real thing.
TDS.com, where you can get all the TDS you want. Dial in our code, which is BROS10, for your discount of 10% at TDS.com.
I always think about my last.
We should probably look up what is TDS.com.
Gosh.
Yeah, maybe don't Google that.
Listener, do not go to TDS.com. Do not input BROS10 at TDS.com.
Cut to listener. Now I want to go even more.
I was just thinking about the last time I hung with you guys, and we had a conversation about conflict and overseas. We don't have to. I won't bring that up unless y'all want to. But
Yeah.
I've done a lot of research and have some strong opinions. But I left that conversation going, okay, I need to do some research here. I need to also, and one of the reasons was because, okay, I trust these guys. They're not idiots. So therefore.
Well.
Don't you feel like that plays into it though? Like you need to be able to, the source matters. And so for me, I left going, all right. And so I started today into a dive into that on my own to go, okay, where do I land on this? What do I not know? Even though I have what I feel is extensive information, it may be one-sided. So I feel like that is a crucial part. Now I will fight to the end on my opinion, but for me, I want to wrestle the idea. I'm not going to just carte blanche receive it. I want to wrestle the idea. And for me, a lot of times I'm misunderstood because I can be dogmatic or an asshole. But it's actually something that I thoroughly enjoy because that's how I learn.
Yeah.
Okay, let's wrestle through this thing. No, that's why the podcast is called Tell Me I'm Wrong.
Mhm.
So to me, that was an educational experience going, okay, I'm going to walk away from this and not just be convinced I'm right, but I'm going to do some more research. And I feel like that's pivotal. But it was a trust factor.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally. There's certain people that, of course, we interact with, and we're like,
Okay.
yeah, we don't agree. And I don't know if I'm going to spend the time to research your side of things. It may not be worth anybody's time.
Yeah, and you're mentioning the pivotal part is, so I'm going to research. I'm like, ultimately, someone needs to prove me wrong or take me on a ride, then that puts me over on their side, and I haven't had that done. So
Ever?
no. I mean, in terms of like my beliefs in Jesus,
Okay.
my friendships, the how I parent, how I'm a husband, what my purpose is, like nothing has ever shifted that. I've messed it up, but that's just proof that, I need to be, doing X, Y, and Z to, I need to be, straight lining this and doing with everything I've got, or things do not go well. And so if somebody comes along and goes, well, if you do it this way, I'm like, no, first of all, you're not on the path that I'm on. And I know that gets me to a great place, gets me to a great place with the King. And that's all that matters. And if I'm driving there, the wife goes, my children go, my friends go, there's an exponential explosion of greatness of God that.
But what happens?
Exponential explosion of greatness of God. That is worthy of some of your. I mean, a train crashing off the Empire State Building down. That's an old reference from way back in the day. That's pretty epic verbiage there, Jeff. Well done.
And tracking the good stuff makes sense, but we all get off track. We all it's impossible for us to stay on and completely be doing the right thing all the time.
We'd be Jesus, right?
Right,
That's
exactly.
impossible.
And so that seems to mean it leaves room for when we're screwing up for someone to step in and go, "Hey, man, I'm seeing part of your life that doesn't look like you're doing what you said, being the person you said you wanted to be."
But that's a checkpoint. I mean, that's someone pointing out the obvious. It's like, I know, I know where I'm supposed to be. So it's not your way is going to actually change my way. I know the answer, to make it simple, and I'm getting the wrong answer right now. And I'm doing it on purpose and I know it, I'm running off the rails, going sideways, or in whatever it is, whether it's just overseeing my family as a husband, a father, as a man with my friends, or just in this world that we're living. And if that is off, people can point it out and be like, you're right. And I have been called out. Like, you seem a little different. I even had a wife of a very good friend go, yeah, you do seem a little different. I'm like, man, that hurts because it's convicting. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not in the place that I want to be. When other people outside of my wife are saying, you seem a little different, I'm like, ouch. And I'm thankful that someone would be so comfortable to say, you seem different.
Are you talking about like moral issues, emotional issues, or like theological issues? What are you talking about?
All of the latter, or sorry, all of the at the beginning falls into place, but theologically, if I'm acting and I'm in the Spirit and things are going in a way where I've given things over to God, then all the other stuff falls into place. But when it doesn't, my countenance is different. And I think that's what this person picked up on. And I'm like just things, how I'm saying things and how maybe I'm short with things, or how my perspective on things. And that person was like, you're different. I'm like, yikes. That is not good. That's not where I want to be. I don't want to be. I want to actually have people around me that like call me on things, but also I'm like, that's not good. I don't want to be that person. And so in that regard,
do you guys are there other people outside of this room that call you on stuff?
Yeah.
Not your wife, by the way.
I don't let a woman call me. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, as a pastor, I have a board of overseers who can fire me. So for moral failure, heresy, or misappropriation of funds. And then I've got 2 groups of friends and 2 different pastoral networks who are best friends, and text threads, I'd say 12 to 16 times a week, and connections 4 times a year. And we confession and authenticity and vulnerability. And then my wife is also able to contact those guys because those guys are all out of state. So she has their numbers and our overseers' numbers, so that if phone numbers, hey, and she has, you need to check in on Carey. Something's off. We're not good. And so those are the biggest portions, and probably the greatest strength in my life is both authority and camaraderie. That's 100% authentic. And it takes a lot of time to get there.
When that happens, is your reaction usually the same, or does it vary? Like, is it
if what happens
if you get that call, hey man, you okay?
Yeah.
Because I'm concerned about you. I'm worried about you, or I've heard some stuff.
Yeah.
What's your natural response to that?
I'm a fighter, and my initial instinct is
defense.
Here we go. All right. And then I just worked hard. I don't mean this as like a toot my own horn, if you will, but I just worked hard to just be 100% authentic with the people in my life so that I don't have a train wreck down the road.
Yeah.
And so one of our overseers, he is a 65-year-old version of me, or I should say I will be like him personality-wise, and Megan has called him on numerous occasions.
Version.
Yeah, in other words, we're not virgin of me.
Thank
version,
you.
sorry.
Yeah, just for clarity.
Every time he calls and says, hey, Megan reached out, I'm like, okay. So I kind of become, yes, sir. All right, what's the deal? And Megan and I don't know if this is healthy or not, but we threaten each other with that. Hey, if we don't get this figured out, I am calling so-and-so, because she has that. All of our overseers' wives play that in her life. And hey, I will call them. And it's kind of like when your kids are saying, I'm going to tell mom and dad. And I just feel for us, it has been, even though it's a weaponized, it's the most healthy thing, because then we both go, okay, all right, what do we need to do here? Not because we're going to avoid talking to them, because we realize we've reached a place where there's not unity and there's not alignment. And so that's honestly the biggest lifesaver in my marriage and in my personal walk with the Lord. But it's a choice to go lower the defenses and embrace the authenticity and maybe the pain of, hey, you got to knock that off. You've got to, hey, that's not acceptable. You can't behave that way. So
especially the pain. I mean, true growth doesn't come without pain.
No.
I can't think of, I mean, maybe there's got to be an example out there, but pain and suffering leads to destruction and also to great growth and great love.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to something. I can't remember the pastor, but he was talking about like nobody ever got anything from the good times. Like the good times, everything's going well. There's no challenges. It's the darkest times. It's the times you're called on things. It's the times that you are having conflict with people that you find resolve and you come to terms with, apologies, or can I have forgiveness? Or it's like, it's the chiseling away. It's God just chiseling away at like, you're better, like cut, let's chisel this crap off of you. This is the fat that you're carrying that you don't need. And it's like in those darkest times that we get stronger and better to, be the man in our friends' lives, our wives' lives, our kids' lives. And that's just a phenomenal thing. It's only when people call you out or you realize, in your own time.
Do you guys have that in your life outside of your spouse? Do you have, because I've found, let me follow it up with a statement, then I will be quiet with that. But I found that is the hardest thing for guys. And it was the hardest thing for me to invest in that, probably 3 years in both groups of just investing, and it's awkward. But do you guys have that in your life where it's somebody outside your spouse that can kind of, I don't know, call you to the carpet per se?
Yeah, there's, besides these two guys who, if they told me, hey, you might want to think about this, or here's a couple thoughts I have, like that would stop me in my tracks and be like, okay, I'm not just going to dismiss this. There's a couple others too that are trusted. The type, and it goes in both directions. The type that if they would help me if I was in, the hide your body guys, like, not your body, hide your body, Carey.
Hydro bodies?
After I murder you, Carey, I have a few people that will help me hide your body.
This section of the podcast has been brought to you by hydrobodies.com. Hydrobody.com.
Don't Google that either.
Passcode bros10.
Oh my goodness.
For your
hashtag 6 feet under.
I think they would probably not actually. That's just the phrase, when
I got what you're saying.
This is somebody that's like
someone who will help you hide a body,
no matter what. And it goes in both directions, good and bad. Like if I need to be called out, there's people that if they were to call me out would not quite as extensive as it sounds like your network is, but I think there's probably a bigger. I'm not saying it shouldn't be more extensive. I'm open to that, but you in your position of leadership and pastoralness requires probably more accountability.
So
and oversight.
So your answer is yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Anyway, let me talk
I do have so I think.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, sure.
My friend calls them driveway friends. That if you called them, they'd be in your driveway in 24 hours.
To help you move that body.
So you can hide that body.
Yes. Yes.
Do you think it's significantly easier, or we're more open to the idea that if that person is far away, that we'd be willing to either offer ourselves to receive that kind of information or even ask them for that kind of information because it's a little bit safer?
Like physically far away?
Yeah, like physically far away.
Are you asking me? Or any of the panelists?
Just a jump ball. Yeah.
I do think there is a benefit to that. And I had a mentor who used to call it veiled transparency, where you learn how to be just enough transparent that it comes across as authentic, but it actually, you're still hiding that 10%. So there is the distance factor that definitely contributes to that. Also, if there is the distance factor, you have to choose, and I'll personalize it. I had to choose intentionality literally in December of this past year, just really nasty insecurity, and I won't share it on this podcast, embarrassing what I was thinking and what I was feeling. And I didn't want to tell anybody because as a man, I felt so weak. And I knew it was like poison.
Yeah.
And because it was 3 days, I woke up thinking about it. I went to sleep thinking about it. And I was embarrassed. I didn't even tell my wife yet. And I texted the dude. I just typed it out. Actually, no, I voice texted. Hey, I'm saying this. Here's what I'm feeling. Here's what I want to do because it'll make me feel stronger if I do or say this. And I just need to say it. And then I went and told my wife. And I was embarrassed. And my bros were like, dude, we love you. Way to go. Praying for you. And it was humiliating, to be honest with you. But it took I don't see them. So if I had seen them, they could have been like, hey, something's not right. So it's kind of both sides of it.
There's a little bit of a buffer there, maybe sometimes, because you don't have to see those people on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And so I feel like there might be some additional safety. Hey, I can lob this thing over and
yes,
I get it off my chest. And then I don't have
to see you on Sunday.
I don't have to see you on Sunday. I don't have to deal with all those things. And that's good. But like the combination of those things maybe is the sweet spot. But you're right. And I don't know what it is, like us as men and shame and embarrassment and humility, primarily because either we're not matching up to what we thought we should be or somebody else's idea of who we should be.
Yeah, I think I struggle with that because I don't want to appear weak. Like if you know Enneagram stuff, I'm an 8. We talk about this every time I'm on here, but every shadow side of my strength is I feel vulnerable somewhere and I'm protecting it. So I do not like letting you see the vulnerability. I hate it. I don't like my wife saying that because my wife is a strong woman and it doesn't make me, I feel weak. But if I don't share it, I've just found, man, it becomes septic inside. And that 2 days will turn into 2 months real quick.
You know, it's crazy too. I've realized this a lot in the last 5 or 10 years is any leaders who I've gravitated towards have had maybe like you were alluding to, like that right degree of vulnerability, like enough that they're letting you in to show you they're not flawless.
Yeah.
Like there's gaps in the armor, so to speak, and they're human and they can make mistakes, and that's okay because the reverse is off-putting and usually makes me suspicious.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, they have nothing wrong. They've made every decision perfectly. They never question a decision. And therefore I'm like, wait a minute, like, are you oblivious? Are you what are you missing? Because now like my radar's up.
Yeah. I would agree.
Well, we were out in the Andy's kitchen and I kind of threw some things out to you. I'm like, there's stuff that happens in my life. I'm like, gosh darn it, why did I go there? Like, why is it? And I'm literally just kind of like dumping that on you because I trust you. I'm like, you're a brother, and we've only hung a few times, but ultimately it's like, how vulnerable will you be with people? If we're like in war for a moment, we were vulnerable enough, and I'm like, trust you for the rest of my life
because we're both in war,
right?
Right, like that's
you're in the trenches together.
We're together in this.
Yes.
So one of us sharing vulnerability with the other opens up the doors for the other person to do that too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's stuff that the original question is like, do you share things with people, or do people call you out on certain things? I think it's more so feeling comfortable with telling certain people like, hey, man, I'm failing in this. Like ultimately, like I need prayer. And also I just need to dump this on you because it's a burden. And if I know somebody else has got it, then I'm letting Jesus take this. Somebody's got it who's a brother and will like be like, dude, I'm with you.
Yeah.
And now I know, like, now we're tied together and you'll be praying for me. And that's all we want, because as men, we want to come through. We want to lead well. We want to be good friends. We want to be there for each other. If we called on somebody, we'd be in your driveway, within a moment. And that's kind of like how we see each other. It's like, we want to be dependable and we want to be the strength in other men's lives, and and really that pours over mostly into our wives and our kids.
Do y'all deal with the imposter syndrome? Like the idea?
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm fine.
Like, but genuinely, because I
don't know what that is.
Okay, the imposter syndrome is like, I mean, this is not a textbook definition.
You're faking out people.
Well, the idea that you feel like one day at some point, family, wife, employer, employees are going to realize, I don't really know what I'm doing.
Yep.
I don't belong here. I shouldn't. And everybody's going to be exposed to the real truth that I'm just like, that to me that's the haunting force in the back of my mind on a regular basis. How do y'all navigate that?
Because if that takes hold, it can paralyze you and cloud your thinking, and you don't think clearly about who you are and what your true gifts are and what you have to offer the world, and it can retard your growth or even actually reverse it. Seriously, though.
No, I appreciate that. I was appreciating the use of the word. That was good.
I'm using it in the classic way.
Use a soft R next time.
Yeah, please.
We're told.
How do you navigate that? How do you deal with that on a daily basis?
There's two. I go two directions on it. At times it is motivating for me. Like I remember my first year at Amazon was really hard because it was in my career, it was like going from the minors to the majors. And so it was a big step up, and I had to learn a lot. And I just spent a lot of days feeling dumb. Like maybe it wasn't even imposter syndrome. It was legit.
Real, yeah.
It was legit.
Actual imposter.
But at the same time, like, I had a manager tell me, like, you're doing fine. Like, you got hired here. You didn't fool them.
That's great.
But so that's the positive version, right? Like, okay, get inspired, dig down deep, and go like take care of your shit. And then there's the other version that happens, which can be debilitating. Can be like I will find myself frozen at times in those moments. So it's like avoidance of the thing. I will like steer clear of it. And eventually that stuff, it just starts like it starts heaping up. I'll notice like it will pile on top of each other. And I recall one time it was a confluence of events, but that was a piece of the puzzle for me, and sitting with my therapist and kind of going back to what we were talking about, having guys that can like see you and know you. And I didn't say anything. He just looks at me. He's like, dude, you look like you got the weight of the world on your shoulders right now. And I like broke down. I didn't need to say anything. I was just like weeping because he was right. He saw it and he knew it and it was happening. But I think those things can totally be terrifying. I think I don't know any guy who would honestly say that they don't encounter it at some time in their life.
Oh yeah.
And like I said, for me, it's either inspiring or it can be debilitating. Like I'll get frozen.
And when it's debilitating, how do you pull yourself out of that? Or what is it? Because one of the things you said, which I thought was powerful, is you weren't giving a specific illustration, or maybe you were, it was affirmation from someone else and a validation.
It was recognition, at least. Like, you're in it.
You're here. Well, not the therapist, your boss or whoever. They hired you.
Yeah.
So that's an affirmation and a validation. So sometimes that's important. We can't be seeking validation, but it's needed.
Yeah. And there's times where reminding myself of the things that I know that are true. That's helpful for me as well. So I'll come back to those and I'll go, wait a minute. No. You have done this before. You know how this goes. These are the things that you need to do. And then, by the way, so if you don't know this part of it, then go ask somebody.
Great.
Go find out.
Yeah. And maybe imposter syndrome it's not all or nothing. It could be mixed in with a little bit of conviction, and maybe a conviction of like, oh, I don't know what I need to know for this role or whatever. Is it all imposter syndrome, or maybe part of it is, or what could set off imposter syndrome is a conviction of like, why do I feel this way? What can I do to learn and become more confident in whatever role that is? And so maybe it is going to your network and be like, right now I feel like an idiot. I feel like I don't belong in X, Y, or Z. Is there any truth to that? Is there something I need to do to get better at this, or am I off base and I'm really fine? And somebody that you trust, your boss or whoever, can tell you, or at least maybe help point you in the right direction of like, actually, you don't know as much as you say you know about this other thing, and I don't know.
Yeah, and the world has gotten, social media especially, the world has gotten really good at personal PR.
Sure.
Right? And so portraying an image of themselves, and then we naturally are like, as humans, are making comparisons all the time.
Thief of joy.
Yeah, the comparison is the thief of joy. And so it's reasonable to expect that if we encounter a massive increase in comparison happening in our mind via social media now, that is bleeding into real life.
For sure.
And it's affecting people's behaviors in the real world. And now we're like that much more pummeled by people's perfect version of themselves being presented.
Sure.
Yeah, especially in a pastor spot. Sorry.
Just thinking about this, when I think about this, comes back to family. And, in terms of being called out like an imposter, like if someone called me out, I'm like, I ultimately at the end, in terms of really as a parent, I'm like, okay, as I release kids out into the wild, I'm like, how did I do? It almost like I have this, it's not a terrible thing. It's a good thing, but it's also like, okay, this is a part of me. This is my DNA. This is how I brought my kids up. And it's like, okay, there goes one kid. Okay, now the next kid's going out into the real world, and I'm like, how did I do? And it's like, are my children seen as like, dude, these are stand-up people. These are hard workers. These people like are tremendous people. Like they work, they are somebody you want in your circle. And I'm like, when I look out at my kids, I'm like, please, God, like I think I screwed them up terribly. But I'm like, that is almost my benchmark, because I look back to my own upbringing, and this is where I'm like, my parents failed. They divorced. They failed us. They didn't come through. It left me with an insecurity, and now I'm fighting to like, am I enough? God, am I enough? Did I do good enough? My wife, she lived a totally different life, and I'm fighting that as well. And we're trying to bring these kids up, and it's like you get to the point, and ultimately I'm like, am I an imposter? Did I fake all this, and my kids, don't, I'm just BSing myself and I'm just kind of on autopilot, or what? But I just don't. Ultimately, it comes down to, like when people look, it's like, it really comes down to like, it doesn't matter what my friends say. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. It's like, did I love my kids? Did I love my wife? Did we show our children like what it was to be a family? And did they move forward in life in a healthy way? And if someone said, Jeff, you're not raising your kids well, your kids are toxic, they don't know what the heck they're doing in the world, I'd be like, dude, I failed. Like, but
It's brutal.
So that's kind of where I land on that. It's more of with my parenting at this point than anything.
Don't you feel like that could be a dangerous place to be, in that if your kids make a decision that is life-changing before they should, or a poor life-changing decision, or if they change direction of life choices from what you value, then you might take, the phone is tipping over.
No.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Camera down.
That's all right. I'm getting a lot of FaceTime right now.
You are getting a lot of FaceTime.
I'll enjoy it. I'll turn the dimple on.
We're Andy, the director / producer, is doing a great job of Jenga. He's doing a full
Anyways,
downward
you were
dog yoga
saying-
pose.
There you go. Bring it in. Bring it in. Actually, Carrie, just come over here, sit on my lap.
I would love to. I was just saying, like, that's dangerous too, because if that is the case, then you would take credit for another human's poor choices, as opposed to like looking through the lens of, did I do the best of my ability to equip them with everything they needed to be who God created them to be?
Yes, it is that is a heavy weight, and I realize it's unrealistic. It's kind of in my craw, though. I'm like, it's in my craw. It's like stuck in there. It's like, you're going to live with this. This is what you put a little bit of.
I thought I smelled something weird.
You put a little leverage.
In your McCraw.
You put a little leverage into this part of your life. Like, I just remember becoming a father, and we were just looking back at pictures of when our kids were like 5, 6, 7 years old, and I'm like, man, I hope I didn't fail. I hope we didn't fail. I hope we have just produced some kids that will grow up to be tremendous adults. And ultimately, we were talking about this a few days ago, which is a little bit of where I put my faith. I'm like, we're supposed to bring up our kids in a certain way. And when I look at my children, I'm like, this isn't biblical, but I'm like, my kids have staying power. They're battlers. They're fighters in this world. They will be. They won't stop. And that is how we kind of brought them up. They're competitors, and they're fierce, especially my oldest girl, Kendall. She is a fierce girl. A lot of times she puts on a very sharp look, and then at times I can get her to laugh, but man, does she understands the world, and I love that about her. But ultimately it comes down to like, you're going to, as much as you want to be fierce in the world, I want to make sure that my kids fall to their knees for the king. And that's ultimately my like hope, and also my worry, like, please,
Aragorn.
Because there's been some battle. There's been a battle within our family. It's like, okay, you decide to pull the ripcord, but you know where I stand. You know where your father stands. I can't do any more than what I'm doing right now, except to show you this picture. And if you walk away, just know I will always be here. And ultimately, that's, if someone said you're faking your world, your life, I'd be like, just wait. I know they'll bend their knee to the king.
Well, that's the we're in this pivotal part of parenting where, can I use more P's?
Yeah, nice alliteration. Plosive, which is getting ready to send, like, you've already got one that's outside of high school,
Mm-hmm.
and
like everyone else is like in that same range. And you got somebody in college, and it is, you have to learn, knowing that growth is made through mistakes and pain, that your kids have to have their own mistakes, and
Mm-hmm.
allowing them to make their own mistakes and grow, while also trying to provide the right kind of input. And with each kid, it's different on how they receive that. It is a wild time. Like I tell my kids, and I think it helps them understand us. It's like, we are learning how to parent you every day. Like every day is like, every stage is new. There's no book you can read that's going to be like, nope, this for Aubrey, this is exactly what you do in this situation. And it's wild. And I think that honesty has helped. It's like, we are doing the best we can. And I promise you're going to look back, and you might need to come to me and say, hey, it really sucked that you told me this that way, or you whatever it is. Right now, I feel like I did everything perfectly, but looking back, it's always like, I wish my parents would have done it this way, and then rinse and repeat. But you're just moving the ball forward. And I think having the fear of like, have I done enough? Have I equipped them enough? Just having that, I would be worried if you were like, no, I nailed it. Totally nailed it. They're good. They're equipped. But it's the people that are like, did I do enough? It's like, the fact that you're aware of that fear is high enough emotionally intelligent to where it's like, okay, you weren't perfect and you probably fucked up in some ways, but you're better than average. I guarantee it.
Also, can I challenge your thinking in one area?
Yes.
I think there's a big difference between grappling with the notion that your children have the ability to choose whether they'll follow the Lord obediently or not. That's the tear in the heart of a parent. But their decision whether or not to obediently follow the Lord hasn't to do with who they are and the choices that they make, not whether or not you were good enough as a parent. Because what I know is, at least for the last 10 years, you've been pursuing the Lord and to the best of your ability. And like Zach was saying, you're going to get some things right and you're going to get some things wrong. But it's one thing to go, God, I hope that they follow you their whole life. And to go, if they don't, it's my fault. Those are two different things. And I would encourage you to steer away from the latter.
Yeah. And I take it seriously. I take my role as a parent, as a father, seriously. And it's funny, my 17-year-old, she will say, oh, how's your, imaginary person in the sky? And I'd be like,
oh, now we're getting somewhere, Jeff.
I'm like, I love that my daughter would say that, because she's just pushing back. But she's pushing back because she wants something there. She wants conflict. She wants a conversation. She's not just doing, you wouldn't say anything if you didn't care.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that is, and it takes a little bit of maturity and wisdom to realize that, oh, I have hooked a fish here and it wants to swim around, and it's okay being a little, swimming around, but feeling a little bit of hook. And
Right.
It's like, okay. I'm like, ultimately it's like, well, you want to go to dinner tomorrow? No. How about next week? I have my hair to be doing. How about the week after? I have my nails. I'm like,
I have my nails to be doing.
I'm to be doing them.
But ultimately, we get together because I'm like, oh, finally the fish came in, and so I get the pushback, and I wouldn't blame myself if my kids didn't, they were like, nope, not going that way, or I just watched them. I'm like, at some point, my hope would be, and my prayer would be, at some point, you would, even if it's at 50 years old, you would find the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
It matters to me, and it doesn't matter to me. Like, God is there. He's waiting. He's knocking. He won't stop. He's relentless, and he'll go.
No mountain he won't climb up.
He'll exactly. He will go to the ends of the earth, the ends of the earth for all of our children, for us, for our wives, for all the people that connected with. And I set that aside, and I'm like, I know I don't have that power. It's up to each individual to have that moment, and then to decide what they're going to do with it. That's
good stuff. That's good.
This, can we take a hard right turn?
Yeah.
I want to talk about something real, not all this dumb parenting and authenticity bullshit.
Okay, so we're going to take not a 90-degree turn. We're going to take a U-turn here.
No, actually, I really appreciate.
He appreciates everything.
I had big plans.
I know.
I had bigly plans for this episode.
Let's do it.
And
it's time.
All right, let's start the podcast.
No,
Second podcast.
What I'm saying,
we're warmed up.
What I'm saying is, like,
We are ready.
None of this was planned, and I think it was awesome.
And we can
Thank
split
you.
this. We'll split this podcast.
No, we won't.
Maybe two halves.
We
Before
probably
we
should.
take a hard right, can Carrie go pee?
Yeah.
Take a hard pee.
Oh, drink break.
It's all right, man. We're all over 45. We're all over 45.
Are we just gonna
What?
He's not 45, but he doesn't have any hair.
What?
He has zero hair. Actually, on his entire body. If you look at his calves, they're hairless.
He has a gigantic golden
Are we still
phone.
recording?
Yeah,
What
we're
is
still
this?
recording.
Okay.
I'm not stopping.
All right. Jeff, I appreciate your sharing. And Carrie, actually, I like what Carrie said going back a bit. The first question that was posed, I don't remember how it was posed by you, your first little toss-up, but it was about the leadership in regards to like following something that's like so convicted, or, and Carey said, does it have to be an either or?
Yeah.
You can be somebody who is convicted in what they believe in and moving forward with said conviction, and also be ready to pump the brakes when somebody you trust says, hey, hold on. And I like that. It's a both and scenario.
Well, you're kind of set in those ways within your deconstruction of like, believe this, but also hold this intention. I mean, that's kind of been your ballpark of like, this is how I'm doing life.
Be ready to change if there's better evidence.
Right. I don't want to actually be convicted in something. I kind of want to hold everything. Nope. Yes or no?
No, you have convictions. I have convictions. I'm not like in the seas of relativism. Oh my God.
Well, sometimes, a lot of times it feels that way. It's like, hey, whatever, I believe in this.
Because we've been trained that if you're not X, you're Y. If you're not A, you're B. And so if you're not...
Everything's black and white.
Yeah. And so there's no... I love Mark Normand, comedian, said nuance is the new N-word. Back to the N-word. And I love that concept. Right now, nuance is like the forbidden thing that you can't really do.
That's the new N-word.
Comedy. Oh, look at us, guys. We're
okay. So the U-turn, the right turn.
Well, one of the things you mentioned, Carey, earlier is you, without specifics, you alluded to a previous conversation where it was us.
You can talk about whatever we talked about. I don't mind that.
I don't. And so we were talking about Israel and Gaza, the Gaza war right now, and being on. I won't say I'm on a different side than you, but I'm just. We see it a little bit differently. And during part of that conversation, you said that you're a Christian nationalist.
Yeah,
and that kind of surprised me. And one, because in some of the algorithms I swim in online, only for research purposes, guys.
I don't know what that means, but continue on.
I see some Christian nationalists on X and whatnot, and they're not very pro-Israel at all. And you're pretty, in that argument or discussion, you were pretty pro-Israel. So you saying you're a Christian nationalist, I'm like, that is like the boogeyman word of the day right now. Christians that are more left-leaning or just like progressive Christians are absolutely convinced that Christian nationalism is going to take over the world and destroy everything. And while being in some aspects, I'm a little bit more to the left generally, theologically. I don't think it's necessarily that boogeyman, but I am not a Christian nationalist. So I thought it would be fun to just...
Sure.
What is a Christian nationalist to you? Should I read the Merriam-Webster's definition and see what you think? Or what does it mean to you?
Oh, that left-leaning rag?
yeah, who paid for that definition?
Yeah,
Snopes.
I think if I could maybe just, because they weren't there,
the definition is a good place to start, though, of the term.
Can I just speak to one thing? The listeners were not in our discussion, and so about Israel and Gaza, and my main beef is that I think a lot of people are being swayed towards the pro-Palestinian side of things without a lot of information on the actual history. And I am not. I want to say that I'm learning there's other things and other sides to the story on this, but I just want to make sure that I may not fit the bill when it comes to Israel and Palestine, as what other people who say they're Christian nationalists would say. So I want to just vehemently reject being put into a category of whatever individual you thought of.
Which
not
is
necessarily
why,
you, but the listener
For
specifically,
sure.
yeah. But let me just tell you, you can pull up the definition, but if I could define what that would mean for me, I think it's a pejorative right now to be called a Christian nationalist, and I think that is silly, maybe because of what I believe and think through that. But first of all, I'm a Christian, so I'm a Christian first. Before I'm a United States citizen, before I'm a resident of the state of California, the scripture says I'm a citizen of heaven, so I belong to the kingdom of God, and that is my identity. And as a Christian, I mean, I believe vehemently that there is one way, one truth, and one life, which means that Christianity rejects anything that rejects Jesus as the Son of God and the Savior. As a believer,
What do you mean by reject? It's not actually finished. Finished.
Sure,
I'm sorry.
sure,
No,
sure.
finished. I don't want to derail you. Finish your
you won't derail me.
opening statement.
Yeah. So I believe that the gospel is inclusive and exclusive, that whoever believes receives everlasting life. But if you choose not to believe, you reject, you go to hell. So there is one way only, and there's not two ways to that. So I believe that vehemently. I believe that to say I'm a Christian means something, and I would wholeheartedly hold to the Nicene or Apostles' Creed, and if that's not something you can hold to, then I would say, well, you might not be a Christian. So that would be my belief as a Christian. And then I'm a nationalist in the fact that I believe that I am a United States citizen, and I could give you some definitions in that maybe some of them would specifically speak to that, but let me just share with you, for me, what that means. That I believe that our country should do primarily whatever is in our best interest as a nation, that we should protect our borders. We should also allow people from other nations to be here in due process. I believe that we should defend our borders, and when it's possible, help other nations and countries who cannot help themselves, in as much as it does not hurt us as a nation first. So by those definitions, I am a Christian nationalist. And so that would be my stance. We can read a definition. I can tell you what I would agree with or not, but that's what I mean when I say I'm a Christian nationalist. And let me say this. I believe that our nation should be based on Christian values. I think the one phrase that and my daughter and I were talking about this the other night, who I just shipped across the country to the United States yesterday on a flight and cried for a long time.
Yeah.
Dude, I've got a comment chambered for you.
Okay,
for a while
that's another conversation whenever you want to. But what I do not hold to is that all United States citizens should be Christians. I actually believe in free speech. I believe in the freedom of religion, knowing that in order for our nation to have freedoms, we have to give it to all people, also meaning that they can reject Christianity. So I do not hold to what some Christian nationalists would say, is that all people should be Christians. But I do believe our nation should be founded on biblical principles. Does that help?
Yeah, for sure. And that definitely, there are Christian nationalists who I'm convinced are not bots. I know there's a lot of bots going on that are stirring shit up, but that would disagree with you, and like you would be.
I am a Christian nationalist. Believe what I have to say.
It's almost Triumph the Insult Dog.
That's my Russian.
That was half
Christian
Japanese, half Russian.
To poop on.
It's Christian to be American and American to be Christian, right? That's what you think.
I love that so much. Yeah,
my Russian Christian
that was good.
nationalist bot.
Do y'all remember that Triumph the
Oh
Insult?
yeah, he was the best. For me to poop on.
He's still
Was
around.
it on Conan? Is that what he was on?
Conan, is where he. Yeah, then I think he
Now
branched off and
You
got
can,
his own thing.
he's on Hollywood Squares now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you can find him there. Which actually, I saw an episode of that, and I'm like, I'm alarmed at how much I'm enjoying.
Oh man.
I still remember him standing outside of a Bruce Springsteen concert in New Jersey, and as he's walking by the people standing in line, and he goes, "Like poop returning into the butt." Anyway, Christian nationalist.
Christian nationalist. That's where I land.
Okay, so a cultural framework that idealizes and advocates a fusion of Christianity with American civic life. It contends that America has been and should always be distinctively Christian from top to bottom in its self-identity, interpretations of its own history, sacred symbols, cherished values, and public policies, and it aims to keep it that way. But the Christian and Christian nationalism is more about identity than religion. It carries with it assumptions about nativism, white supremacy, authoritarianism, patriarchy, and militarism. That's a guy's opinion from a book.
The first definition I would align with. I mean, haven't done the hermeneutics of the original meaning of each of those words, but yeah.
Dude, do you know who James White is?
Mhm.
He's scare quotes Dr. James White. He has a fake doctorate. But he debates guys.
Like Bruce Springsteen. That's a callback.
I think
Yeah.
I do know who you're talking about.
Bald guy with a beard. I found myself, he just did a debate. He likes debating people.
Yeah.
And he's a hardcore Calvinist. And so normally I hate everything he says, but he debated a Christian nationalist about whether God can sanctify black people as much as white people. And this was a serious debate.
Whoa.
And I'm like, when I saw it, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be totally on James White's side. Because James White is obviously like,
So
everyone can be sanctified.
the
Like,
Christian nationalist was saying they could not.
yeah, not as much.
Whoa.
And this is not somebody, I think in the big scheme of things, this is like a fringe individual, but he's not a nothing. He represents some segment of, dare I say, like quote unquote Christianity that is like, if that plant continues to get watered, that's not a good thing.
No, that's horrible.
And that's why I'm like, when you say Christian nationalist, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I know you enough to be like, I just wish you don't need that label. You can keep being Carey. You can be Carey, professional Christian Carey, and be a good Christian man and a good leader and care about your country and love your country and want what's best for your country. And you don't need that label. I feel like you're bigger than that. Like you're
Sure.
above that. And so that's why I'm like, oh wow, this could be a good conversation.
Yeah, that's kind of why I don't mind saying that. Now I don't get up on the pulpit and in the first 30 seconds say, "Hey, just for the record, I'm a Christian nationalist." But I think that is the bots at work. I think that I think that social media is creating a narrative that takes away. If I believe what I believe, I believe in wholeheartedly in Christianity, and I believe that it is the only plan that leads to flourishing for humanity. That is what I believe. Nobody else has to believe that, but I believe that. So I think all the powers in hell wants to do everything they can to push people away from God's plan for flourishing. And so why not try to make it negative and highlight the 1% of people who would say, yeah, I'm a Christian and black people can't be sanctified as much as white people. So I can't prove that
cherry
is
picking the worst examples. Is
correct.
That what you're saying?
Yeah. I can't prove that that's only bots pushing that stuff. But what I just explained to you, I think most Christians would go, yeah, okay. You believe that the Christian process is the way for flourishing and we should follow that. And you believe that our nation should take care of ourselves and make sure we're healthiest. I think most Christians would probably go, yeah, and say, so I'm probably on that side. Now that's anecdotal. I guess it's silly fool's errand, but still.
But also you believe in the freedom for people to do things that you wouldn't do or advocate for or disagree with. And that's a big difference. So how we're going. So you guys have any thoughts?
No, it's good.
Jeff.
You're both wrong.
I haven't even said what I believe.
I do think it's hard sometimes for me with the freedom of religion because it's like a conflict. Let me clarify. I know it's needed, and I believe in what that does for our country.
Freedom of religion is
the freedom
needed.
of religion, because if the moment
it's kind of how we got started.
well, exactly,
It is how we got started.
That's what the whole purpose of the separation between church and state was, not to protect the state, but to protect the church.
Well, that's the whole reason we seceded from that and taxes.
And taxes.
Taxes, maybe taxes. But mostly.
Yeah, but
well, it's the whole reason that we have different colonies back in the 1700s is that
Teacher Jeff.
that many were like, it's kind of like Mormons. Well, we believe in drinking Coke. Well, then start your own state. And that's kind of how we ended up having these different colonies. It's like, well, I believe in this. Well, I believe a little bit of this. And so that was the freedom of religion within that's kind of where it was born out of. However,
I like a little Coke.
there was a little,
it was Pepsi, by the way, because they bought major stock in Pepsi.
I would make an
Utah
assumption
Pepsi.
that they did not expect Muslims to be a part of the United States of America. And that ends
Or
up
Anglicans.
that ends up being a
which is
big
worse.
rub. Like literally people in other countries that are Christian, that are very homogenous. Their countries have been ruined by other countries and cultures coming into their country and ruining their country because they're like, we do not see eye to eye.
Nazi. He said Nazi.
You were in the wrong neighborhood.
My heart goes out to you.
Why has our government allowed you to come into our country? You are not our people. And that is where we're having conflict with, so when we say like a Christian nationalist, like, yes, Christianity, that is America. Nationalism, that is the United States of America. You want to mess with that? You are messing with this country and you are grabbing the horns. And
Didn't you just contradict the entire idea of freedom?
The freedom of religion?
Yeah.
Well, that's where I go back. I think that's why I said the assumption was made. People that believe, like the Muslims, there was no expectation that Muslims would be a part of the United States. It was founded by a very WASP type of person,
white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. If you're
not actual
and a
WASP.
lot of theists,
and that, but
Yeah.
deists.
Deists,
that
Deists.
expanded throughout the country. I seriously doubt the founders were expecting it to then go sideways and end up with a totally different culture within the country. And couple hundred years later, it did. So the idea of like freedom of religion, I would make the assumption, I would presume that Muslims were not an expectation coming forth in the United States because they changed the culture and it's not healthy for our society.
So, do you think that we should change would you be advocating to change the Constitution?
Within the Quran, they want to kill people who do not believe.
Have you read your Old Testament, dude? Even the New Testament, some parts.
I wanted to just come back to
we could do live retractions if we want to.
That I don't think that Muslims
we're all different.
have
Let's just say
destroyed the culture of the United States of America.
I think a hard line Muslim destroys the culture.
Okay, you just changed the goalpost.
What definitions are important here. So what do you mean by that? Like, you should be specific, because generalizing a very large group of people without more detail gets dangerous.
So let's move back out of the United States to where we came from, and that's in England. They have the best cities that really existed in Europe being destroyed by that very belief. And it is, it's not anything I can say. It's what you can see in Stockholm. The country of Sweden is falling apart because there is a people who have a culture and a belief that it is not in line with the culture and life that existed there. Violence has gone through the roof.
Okay.
People have lost their culture. They're losing it and they don't know how to hold on to it. It's like, oh, this is Christianity. Just no. Those people are not friendly. It is not friendly fire.
Okay, hold on. I'm not taking anything away from that part of the conversation, and maybe we can do a Christian Nationalism Sweden edition in a future episode.
I think it's all the above.
No, but
it's spreading throughout. It's a cancer spreading throughout the world.
I got you. But
I know I'm saying it bluntly, but it's meant to be blunt.
Okay, for the record,
we
for my friends who are Muslim who are listening to this podcast, I don't agree with you, Jeff.
Why do you have to say that? Why do you have to talk to people out there? Why can't you just talk
because
to them?
I have friends who are Muslim, and I think that what you're saying is obtuse, and it's way too generalized. And yes, there are examples where you have cultures that have been assimilation has not been the goal of refugees, but I think you're taking a very complicated topic and you're trying to use broad sweeping generalizations, and like you're calling my friend an asshole right now effectively, and I'm like, well, he doesn't fit any of the stereotypes that you've described, so to paint a picture that broadly is shitty. Be more specific, be more detailed. You can pinpoint, hey, there's really bad there are bad policies that have been made which have set up a precedent to say we as a country are going to receive any number of refugees wide open without the idea of are those who are coming in interested in assimilating to our culture, which means you're going to hold our culture up as something valuable.
Okay, that's different.
And support. It is different than what you're saying. That's why I'm like, dude,
but
be specific.
That's very different. Well, yes. Somebody who wants to come here and assimilate and be a part of the culture, pay taxes, be a citizen, be an American, be a part of the community. That is very different than what has been dumped on us in this country and other countries over the last 5 to 10 years. So, I mean, the fact that Zach's even bringing up the idea of Christian nationalism, those are broad swaths of like words that get painted over everything, and then that's the conversation. So
that's why I'm bringing it up, so that we can parse through.
But parsing through it means you literally have to have an individual conversation with your friend Andy, and be like, oh man, you're a good guy. Like you have a good family. Like you're in the culture and you're in my community and you're a part of our community. You're my friend. I call you brother. And so that's very different. But there is something going on that is very different that didn't exist 20 years ago or 30 years ago or 40 years ago in America.
To your point, there has been a sweeping thing in our nation, but it's preceded by what you're talking about in many European nations, that it's like, no, let all these cultures emerge to their own at the detriment of the culture of the nation. And in that, it becomes diluted and it slowly is evaporating and fading away. But that doesn't mean that it's the Muslims' fault, which is what it sounds like you're saying. I don't know that's what you mean, but what I hear you say, Andy, is that when people come into our nation from other countries, they've got to hold the cultural values of the United States in their hand first, and then allow their culture to come into the fold or parallel, something to that effect. Is that what you're saying?
Sure. It used to be described as immigrants were interested in taking part in the American dream.
Yes.
Right? It wasn't a subverted version of that. And to your point, like, and we would see New York is a great example
Italy,
of this, right?
Chinatown. Yeah.
You would see subcultures from those different countries represented. Mm-hmm. However,
it's part of the magic of New York.
It is part of the magic of New York. However, each one of them would proudly say, I'm American and I'm here for a reason, because I feel like
some of them New Yorkers.
This is where I want to be.
I'm a New Yorker first.
New Yorker first,
but
American second.
They're united in that banner, not united in I'm Irish or united in I'm Italian, but no, we are united in the fact that we are united.
Here for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that is shifting some. And to Jeff's, what I think Jeff's point is, I do think that is shifting some. And I always go back to critical theory, but I think that's because the narrative has been there's two groups of people, oppressed and oppressors, and it's the colonialism that needs to be snuffed out. So cultures, everything emerged except for Christianity. If you're a Christian, you're a bigot. You're a homophobe, xenophobe. That's my opinion. Doesn't mean I'm right.
That's clippable. We got him saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mentioned your version of Christian nationalism would violate other Christian nationalists.
Totally.
Like that dude who calls himself a Christian doesn't think black people can be sanctified as much as white people. I don't even know what the fuck that means. Like where?
Like how much? Where's the cutoff? Like,
yeah, how are we grading that? But that person, so
probably 3/5.
Non-Christians, and just take an atheist or agnostic person, like that becomes Christianity to that person, and the danger is like, no, that's not I might not be a Christian in the same way Carey is, but we're way closer in our faith than we are to that dude.
Right.
As when it comes to race stuff, but to other people, that's Christianity. And that's the danger of that blanket statement of like, oh, there's the worst of it. That's what they're doing. Watch out for that. And I think a lot of people, like the boogeyman of Christian nationalism is like everyone is under that bucket of a person that wants whiteness to be above all else.
I think that part isn't as controversial. I think where it gets a little more murky, and maybe where we had a little bit more of the controversy and disagreement, was America enacting or supporting violence against in other countries throughout the world, and whether or not that is involving innocent people or not.
I don't know if, well, you guys, I don't want to open that can of worms right now. And if you guys do, fine. But like, what about what I'm thinking of in Christian nationalism? Some people want to make Christian laws. You have the 10 Commandments everywhere, every courthouse or whatever. Are you somebody that wants to have like Christian laws? You mentioned biblical principles, but what about the law and enforcing and controlling those types of things? And how does that interact with freedom?
All politics is built on morality. It's about creating.
Have you ever met a politician?
Not politicians. That's different. But everything that has to do with politics.
I love you so hard right now, Andy.
Everything that has to do with politics is all about what is right and what is wrong, and what are the accountable systems to maintain that, to maintain order, or to protect our borders. Borders and boundaries were given to us in Scripture in the Old Testament by God. Very, very crucial, very important to our history as a Christian faith. But all of what politics do is to maintain order. And all of that order is based on a morality. That morality is based upon the Scripture. And so it's not just selective choosing things. So yes, fundamentally, absolutely believe that I believe you should vote your biblical values, and you should vote Christian values, even though we might disagree on some of those, and I don't mind having that discussion. But yes, I 100% believe that we should have laws in place that align with Scripture. And I know that's not a possibility when humans are involved, because it's going to be imperfect.
Right. And I would push back a little bit we do have to pick and choose, because when Scripture is big, it's the Bible.
And no party fully aligns with every value.
Right.
Yeah.
And that it leads to like, how do we interpret Scripture? Which laws do we choose? But my biggest concern, and you guys fight me or not, or tell me where I'm wrong, but anytime you're making laws, the state has to enforce laws, and you enforce laws through violence or the threat of violence when it comes down to it. And so that's where I don't think hardcore Christian nationalism is a threat to take over the United States. I'm not an ambulance chaser in that regard. But when I see people talking about laws, like Christians that want biblical laws, they want Christian laws. Well, they usually never say Christian. It's always biblical, which I think is an interesting distinction. They don't never say Christ-like. I have never heard one person say Christ-like laws.
Okay.
And I think that might be a really important distinction, because then I'm on board. But actually, I'm not. But you enforce laws through violence or the threat of violence. How does that interplay with your Christian faith?
I don't have. I'm
not saying you have that, but other people. What do you think about that?
I don't know that I don't know that I necessarily think it's only through violence. It's also through the will of the people. So that's why you look at 3 types of civilization. Not that these are the only types, but you've got imperial, you've got tribal, and then you've got nations. And you've got emperors come in and just take over and expand the boundaries, which we've seen for centuries. Tribal is every group for themselves, which is fine until 2 tribes exist in one area, and that's called anarchy, which I think you'd probably love. And it's just like every tribe for themselves.
Not your definition of it.
Then it becomes the survival of the fittest. Then you have nations, which create borders, and borders are there to protect our not only just protect the people, protect culture, protect civilization, protect ideals and a way of life. And the reason I love our republic and the democracy is that the will of the people. I know politicians are. I understand that there's no perfect politician except for Trump. I'm kidding.
You couldn't even say it. You should have said it with a straight face first.
I should have looked at the
then
camera.
we can clip it.
There's only been one.
Yeah.
Why didn't
Only
you pause
one.
so I could say amen?
I'm sorry.
Only one.
Only one Trump. But I
Bigly perfect.
Biden might be a Muslim, but continue.
I value the will of the people, which is the other component to violence. Is it maintains the laws, but culturally we choose the laws. Now I know we can talk about how much of it is legitimate and whatnot, but at the end of the day, as crazy, batshit crazy as California is, I want to die here. I love this state.
We can make that happen tonight.
You might.
I probably will. Yeah, eating too many.
I got a guy I can call who will
Too many
bury your
will
body,
bury your body.
so fast.
So my point
Two of
is,
those guys are in this room.
if I don't like the laws, I can move, and I can find a state where
yeah.
people vote more culturally what I want, and that is what it should be.
That's
So
anarchy.
that's not.
That's personal freedom.
It is personal freedom, but there's still. Explain to me what your fake definition of anarchy is.
Anarchy, the definition most people, when they think chaos and disorder and destruction, that's what the media does. But what do you think about this? I can
Give the quick definition of anarchy that you feel most comfortable with.
Well, we are in an anarchistic relationship right now. Like
Okay.
if Andy wants me to leave, it's his house. I'm going to leave. If I want to leave right now, Andy can't make me stay. If he does, it's a problem, and that's it's basically freedom. Like,
But that's where the
purest
bounds of
form
anarchy
freedom.
end, and the boundaries of law are enforced, which would be the opposite of that. Because Andy can go, "Hey, 911, there's this guy in my house, and he won't leave."
Right.
And they will come take you away.
Which is kind of a little bit leads to my point. I don't disagree with that, but if the people in charge are making laws because the people want it, they will enforce that law through violence. And what if 51% of the people want to shit in the soup of the 49%?
Yeah.
And they will enforce that law. That's why democracy is kind of a garbage system.
Except for it's working.
I mean,
We have the longest standing articles of incorporation of any nation in history.
I won't say it. I'm not saying it's like all bad all the time,
Yeah.
but it doesn't ensure against it. It's just there's there's a tyranny of the masses where it's like you get people worked up in a certain direction.
Yeah.
The crowd, the mob taking control is like which is why we're not a democracy.
We're a republic.
We're a
Democratic
We're supposed to be a
republic.
democratic republic.
You're all wrong. No.
Okay, you're right. Well, that would bring
So
me back to
they were thinking about things in a way that I think had some brilliance to it. Like, I'm not totally against the system as it was envisioned because they were trying to check against things. But now you got, like, right now it's like Team Red, if my guy's in, I'll let them do whatever they want. And then Team Blue, when their person's in, they'll let them do whatever they want, but then they'll fight against it keeps building this thing, this albatross, this mess.
So I think the thing that I react to the most when I hear Christian nationalist and specifically around like we kind of tiptoed into it a little bit there, but laws can only genuinely truly be enforced unless there is the threat of violence behind that.
Sure.
And that part is maybe something that I struggle with to think about. Like, where do I find where is that in the Bible? Where does Jesus talk about the threat of violence as a backstop, effectively to enforce God's intentions?
All through Old Testament and New Testament, because Jesus would never have disagreed with anything in the Old Testament, and in the Old Testament are clear delineations of how we're to behave as followers of Jesus, and so, which means that there are, I mean, we can't dismiss the wrath of God. Like, there's no, if you don't if you don't think that there is a wrathful side of God, then you might not believe in hell, because that is exactly, which Zach probably doesn't, but that's the exact definition of the complete absence of God. So that is so awful, and that is what waits in line for those who reject the person of Jesus Christ. So there, to me, that is throughout history. God has said, "Here's what you can do. Here's how to live for flourishing, and if you don't, here are the consequences." But I would suggest too that we're looking at the faults of an imperfect system, but we're not weighing it against humanity on their own. Because if you want to talk about tribal anarchy, just look at Africa, which is for thousands of years just crazy genocides of tribes, because other tribes said, we'll devour you and consume you, and that is humanity left to itself. And so even though what we live in isn't a perfect system, and yes, the threat of violence is what keeps order, I would also suggest that Christianity is what has helped keep us a peaceful nation, because, what is it, 81% of the United States, I think it is, claims some kind of faith. I don't know what, maybe the numbers are wrong. Does it say 50%?
No, it's definitely a majority.
4% actually follow Jesus, though.
Is it? Oh yeah,
That's
totally. But our, you talk about the entire southeastern quadrant of the United States is primarily built on the Baptist faith, even with tons of faults. But that birthed things through our nation that has been anchor points where people come back to. But wait a minute, my fellow man, I'm going to love my neighbor. So I would say the reason that I am a Christian nationalist is because we need the biblical values to offset humanity. That we would go, okay, I believe everyone is intrinsically evil, but has a desire to be good.
I think you can say all that and not have to say the nationalist part.
I know, I'm just saying it for the shock value for your podcast. Yeah.
That's the clip we needed.
Well,
Yeah.
it's going to be in the title, which is all we need. So
yeah, it's fine. It's not in my bio. Most people that know me wouldn't know that, but probably because of most of the people most people I run with would agree with my stance, and so the moment I would define that, they would go, "Oh yeah, totally." So
I don't disagree with all of your stance on like a love of country and wanting like order, and like there's a process for things to happen, and obviously we have multi-term presidents going back multi-terms that where we've just shit the bed in terms of that stuff, and
even ones claiming to be Christians.
Yes, yeah. The problem is like it's if going back to Jeff, like let's pretend the worst case scenario where, because there are parts where Jeff, you're not wrong, and I don't disagree with the way, or I'm not with you in the way you frame that, but there are parts of countries where they are being overrun by immigrants that are bringing their own country or own culture, and it's adding chaos to the equation in a way that's not healthy and a detriment to everybody involved.
It's destroying culture.
But so when you add that to the Christian nationalists, like, okay, let's pretend Christian nationalists get the Christian person at the top, the real Christian person at the top, who is like doing things and like this is a part of law now. This is accepted law. The fact that we're in a free society, free-ish democratic republic, maybe it becomes Muslim one day, and then they get the power. They get that power. They get that one ring. This is why I love Tolkien more and more every day, is that the ring of power, the power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yep.
And that exists. What Trump is doing right now, saying nothing about any specifics, but executive orders, he's adding to what the president can do. There's now patterns that future presidents will take advantage of and use. Future presidents people might not like. And so the idol of Christian nationalism, or anybody seeking political power, it's a bunch of Boromirs, if you know Lord of the Rings. A bunch of guys that like, ooh, this is a gift. I would use this for good.
Yeah.
But no, guess what? You wouldn't.
Because it'll corrupt.
It'll corrupt you.
Yeah, but I think if you think of, I would agree with what you're saying, but if we as a nation became Muslim, then the cultural values of our nations have shifted because now there is a requirement of a faith. So we've removed some amendments from our Constitution.
Then
so therefore, I'm bailing because
we would find out what it was to not be Christian.
But there are some Christian nationalists that wish that was the case for Christianity,
and I don't.
And you don't stand with that.
And that's a conflict. I was starting to say that earlier. It's a conflict in the fact that I know in order for us to maintain freedoms, that has to be at place. But it's a conflict because I just believe that Jesus is the only way, the truth, and the life. So it's not that I don't want that law to be changed, but does that make sense? It's a weird tension.
And for sure.
So I know that we can't have the religious freedoms that we do without it being available to all. And I find that beautiful.
Yeah. Freedom. In the immortal words of
George Michael?
No.
Oh.
I said freedom. That's good. Freedom isn't free. Bears a hefty fucking fee. From the Puppet movie. Team America.
I was going to say, not the Muppets. I don't think they said that line.
America!
Yeah. No, there's another song in there. Hefty fucking fee. Super Southern accent. It's great.
Yeah, I think having any flexibility on, the United States as a Christian nation is dangerous. And to allow anyone into that space to take government positions, if all of a sudden our representatives were a majority of non-Christians.
It's already true.
No, I mean, they aspire in a very different way than Christians. They are Middle Eastern.
Okay,
they are.
So
that's a very different. That's a very different world.
So are you okay with? I agree with you. It is a different world.
Dumping 200,000 people during the Obama administration in the Twin Cities in Minnesota, and then it birthed out representatives that are not of a Christian faith, is the beginning of the destruction of the country.
Okay, I'm not taking any of that away from you. So are you okay with, like, you're not a freedom guy? Like, there's limits to freedom, which means it's not freedom?
Freedom in what way?
Like all the ways I described. The power of the state to enforce laws through violence.
Jesus is the king? Jesus is the king.
I don't know what that means. Oh.
Freedom in that Jesus is the king.
Okay.
I think that
if you're trying to go, well, what about her? She's a good person. I'm like, is she a Christian?
Then give me. So I'm not entirely sure how to.
Also, I think that it would be good for our listeners to know that that you do love people who are Muslim and from.
I'm not sure anymore.
From what was the word you just used? From
I love.
What was the nation or the region? Middle Eastern. That you do love people that are Middle Eastern.
I love all people.
Okay.
And when you get in a one-on-one,
obviously,
and when you get in a one-on-one connection with somebody, it's great. But if they come in and then they are propped up, which has happened within our country, and there's a devious thing that's been going on, that there isn't wanting to take what's conforming of the United States and to flip it upside down. And I'm like a first responder within the public schools of California. That is where it starts, and then it pushes out to the rest of it, pushes out to corporations. I mean, Google, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, it pushes out to all of that, the lingo that's been changed. And then all of a sudden it's like, everybody, let's just all accept this. And it's like,
is that about immigrants though? Or is that just about?
Yes, it is.
So there's no one who was born in America who's ever exhibited those characteristics in politics that you just described.
As what?
It's someone who would subvert your intentions of how the political world should go.
No, I'm saying there's a purchase of, let's purchase America and see if we can upend it to where we can subvert everything that's conforming. Boys, let's just start with boys' bathrooms having tampon machines. I'm like, that didn't come from Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior.
But
that came from
Have you guys ever tried that?
But it's all connected.
That's a different argument, though. That's why I'm saying, like,
it's all connected.
Have you ever? So there's no one who was born in the U.S. who supports what you just described.
Nobody's had swamp ass here.
Because because the part that I'm getting stuck on, and I don't think you mean this, but the
I
part
don't
I'm
think
getting
you mean
stuck on is that there's that all the problems in politics in America are due to immigrants who have come in and been put in position in politics. There's no responsibility of any native-born politicians for any of these policies.
Yeah, I think I would.
If you dump a gigantic pot of people from a different culture within America and you make it legal and you allow them to grasp a hold of political power, you have just allowed a cancer to come inside of a country.
I feel like
and
you're
then
not answering my question.
No, I'm answering it perfectly well in that it will then subvert over time. It will subvert things, and they have the ability to have the microphone. Those people shouldn't have the microphone in the first place. They were allowed in. Do I love the people? Yes. Why are you here?
Just shut up.
It's like, why are you here?
This is the point, though. It's like there needs to be, not every culture is the same.
They're not here to assimilate.
Let me ask for clarity. Are you saying that you don't believe people should be able to immigrate to the United States?
People can come to the United States.
Okay, so pause right there. It just said two different things.
Just don't have beef with
So,
Israel.
I'm just getting clarity. I'm just getting clarity. So you do believe people can immigrate here? Are you saying that they can't immigrate in large numbers? What is it you're saying? Because you're talking about two different things. You're saying, why are you here? And yes, you can come here.
What do you believe about America? It's freedom. It's Christian. It's I know where it was birthed.
No,
Like,
it's
I know,
freedom.
No.
It's not Christian.
It
That's
is
the point.
Christian.
Well, okay, then I
This
disagree.
whole
We
country
disagree.
was started with Catholicism under that umbrella.
Well,
If you go to other countries,
It wasn't
it's like
started as a Christian nation. There were Christians that were
Let's
part of
send
the
our
founding.
girls in bathing suits to go to those countries of the people that
Yeah,
are
it was-
coming
I'm
here
not. That's
that
a
want to
different.
change.
You're moving the
No,
goalpost.
it's not.
You're moving the goalpost.
No, because when they come here, they're bringing their culture. If we go back to their country and live
You're
the way that we
changing.
live,
You're
no,
changing the
That's a different
argument.
No,
argument.
I'm not.
Yeah,
we're not understanding what you're saying then, because we're
If you have people that do not, we assume that people will assimilate to our ethics, morals, and way of how we've always done things. But really, it's our beliefs. It's what makes our civilization within America. And if you have a different belief system, then it's like you came here from another country and you knew that we spoke English. You knew that this was a Christian nation. Why did you come here?
So non-Christians can't come here.
they don't. Nobody assumes this is not a Christian nation. You might want it to be, but like Thomas Jefferson hated the miracles, so he created his own Bible to eliminate the miracles.
If people were in power that have a different religion and they're like, goodbye to the infidels, we got a problem.
Exactly, which is why I'm arguing against the power of the like Christian nationalists wanting the power of the state is a mistake. That's why, because you're going to create a system that's going to be used against you eventually. Otherwise, to hold it, you're going to have to kill people eventually.
Put your arm down a little bit there. Yeah, you don't want to be like, not like.
No, it was bent. It was bent. And
Okay.
left hand.
Okay.
I didn't do what Carey did earlier.
No, I said my heart goes out to you. That's what I said.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, but you're not like Elon, so you you can't pull off the autistic charm.
There is more peace when people have a consistent belief across the nation.
We never have though. That's what we're saying. And I think I'm trying to understand the heart of what you're saying as opposed to the words that are coming out of your mouth. Because the words that are coming out of your mouth, you say, yes, you can come here, but not if you don't believe in the king. And you can't bring any of your culture here. And we better make sure only Christians are in government places so that we can keep them at bay. That's the subtext of what I'm hearing. And I don't think that's what you feel or actually believe. I just think I think we're not understanding fully what you're trying to communicate. And I wonder if what you're saying is somewhere along the way, we've lost the plot in protecting culture that matters while simultaneously accepting diverse cultures from other nations.
I mean, we have the world living in the United States.
Yes. We are
And
the world.
over the last 10 or 15 years, there has been an effort to upend the conforming pieces of not only our country but other countries and it's been done by the few, because we're like, well, I didn't ask for these people here. I mean, if you go to St. Paul, Minnesota several years back, and they're like, who are these people? They're ruining our culture. They're beating up our people. There's more violence. This is not good. So just stop right there and be like, why? Because they're not us. And who is us? It's like the people have lived in America that have a certain set of values, certain way of doing things. Yes, we are a violent country when it comes to war, but when it comes to our communities, it's very different. And when the communities are turned upside down, it's like, okay, now something is very different. So it's kind of like this has changed things. And if you allow it to be, well, we want to have a diverse society, you will not have a society. Well, you won't have a civil society. You'll have a completely different community altogether. And that is dangerous. And it's like, do we love people? Yes, but why can't you have peace within your own country? Why can't your culture live? You're going to come to our country.
Mostly because we're tearing shit up over there.
I don't care.
Yeah, well,
I don't care. I could care
it's
less
a thing.
about like Ukraine. I could care less about Ukraine. I don't care
there are consequences to American foreign policies that are there. This isn't the problem with this conversation, and the magic of it, because it is a good conversation, is that we can't put it in a box. There's not like we just need to do this and not do that. It's like the reason some of these things are going on, the reason for some of the immigration issues throughout the world is connected to foreign policies of various nations, and us being the biggest one. And so we can't distill it down to like do this and it will our problems are solved. But that's why directionally, like I wouldn't say I'm like I try not to put a label on myself like, oh, I am this, because I don't want that to become my identity. I want to be able to not have, I made things my identity in the past that ended up backfiring and not being good. So, which is partly why I'm projecting on you and like, are you sure you want that label, bro?
Yeah, but even in the beginning, like I shared, my identity is first a Christian.
You know, for sure.
And then
you nuance it in a way where I don't disagree with you. And it's like, you're not the fearful boogeyman that a lot of people think of when they hear Christian nationalist, but also people will put you in the box with the guy that doesn't think black people are sanctified as much.
I'm already in a lot of boxes just by the role that I play.
What I know, okay, I'm going to just read something. You guys rate, are you generally positive or negative towards it?
Okay.
Positive.
God has not raised up America. What God has raised is Jesus Christ from the dead. It is through Christ that God's purposes are accomplished, not through the empires of this world. This is not my rant, but Paul's high Christology, and references Ephesians 1:3 through 23, Colossians 1:13 through 20, etc. It is through Christ that God's purposes are accomplished, not through the empires of this world.
Positive. Yeah.
Not setting a trap. I was looking for something else that I couldn't find, and I stumbled upon that. And it kind of gets to like the idol of the power. Like right now, people want the power because obviously you can do things with power. It seems like more than ever, politics is at the forefront of everything. Like when I grew up, maybe I'm answering my own question because I was young and I wasn't paying attention.
Maybe we're just aware of it more. Yeah.
Maybe. But it does feel dialed up a little bit. Feels a little different because I've been politically dialed in I'm 46 and probably I started paying attention like legitimately when I was a teenager.
Well, we've been assassinating presidents for 50 years, 70 years. So
what do you mean by we? Okay, different conversation. But what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I also was thinking, I don't know if everybody wants power. I think everyone wants security and safety.
Yeah.
And so they gravitate to the natural inclination is to believe that your authority has the answers and the right answers. So in the nation we live in, that's why I do think in this cultural moment, the polarization has grown to epic. I think 2021 did it. And I think that it took us to a whole new level. So even just talking to people who've been around since Kennedy's assassination, they say the same thing. It's different now than it was 20 years ago. And I think that's because I think there's a tension building, and I think people just want to know I'm going to be safe and secure, and he or she is going to give that to me.
Right.
Which is an idol.
Yeah.
I don't think the general populace is like, I want
Well,
power.
it's an idol, and it's an abdication of their own responsibility too, right?
Right.
So I'd rather be taken care of than be offered the chance to take care of myself.
Take responsibility.
Yeah.
And it also gives you somebody to blame for the problems.
Oh, it didn't go wrong. I was doing great, but
Yeah.
red guy or blue guy messed it up for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is why no real solutions get offered, because then they wouldn't have something to scare the shit out of people with.
Yeah. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Well, next week we'll talk about why no one can say I'm sorry and I messed up in the world.
It's funny, we mentioned that last episode. I think you brought up, like, how come people can't, just like a lack of people saying sorry. And,
Yeah, I got that one wrong. Nope. Never.
Because
No.
it's zero sum. Everything, if you cede any ground, you're aiding and abetting the quote unquote enemy.
Amen.
Like WMDs, right? Nobody has ever come back and said, we should have not gone into Iraq.
Yeah.
We should have not gone to Afghanistan.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. Okay.
Osama
am
bin
I a
Laden
Christian
was in
nationalist now?
Iran. Yeah, you are a Christian nationalist.
No, I'm not.
I thought you were going to say like the WNBA.
Yeah, just like the WNBA.
No one's ever said we should go to one of those games.
Yeah.
Well, guys, this has been good. This has been rich. We didn't get as deep into Israel and Gaza as I thought we might, which
No,
would have been fun. And we didn't get into
want-
your total misinterpretation of the Joe Rogan, Dave Smith, Douglas Murray podcast. That would have been good too.
I'm ready whenever you are.
But we'll do that one, and maybe we'll bring receipts next time, and we can point out exactly how wrong you are.
I'll take it.
I'm curious, real quick, I'm sorry.
Oh, wow, you did what you said.
I'm
But
sorry.
you don't let us do.
I'm sorry.
You're doing it.
But Andy, you pointed back to examples from scripture, like as part of your question. And Carey, you mentioned biblical principles. Why not Christ-like principles? Like,
They're the same. They're synonymous. It can't be Christ. He is the Word. In the beginning was the Word was God, the Word was with God. So it is all synonymous.
I like that, but the word isn't talking about the Bible, in my opinion.
Yeah, I know that you think that, but your theology's wrong. So that's the problem.
What about? So Jesus, when he says, "You have heard it said, but I say," like,
yeah, with the reference to Scripture, he's talking about.
No, I know
he's referencing rabbinic proverbs that they would say to people, but it wasn't in the canonization of the Scriptures.
There's another example where he's like Moses. He's like Moses in what Moses gave you, but
and look back to the Scripture. He's saying what Moses allowed, but you can't find that in Scripture.
Right, which was a change from what it says in the Old Testament, which was basically God told Moses this.
Find that passage.
Okay.
Yeah. Find that passage. And then also reference the Mount of Transfiguration. Jesus stands there with Elijah and Moses, and God repeats what he said at his baptism. This is my son, whom I'm well pleased. Listen to him. And in that moment, he's saying he's greater than Moses, the law and the prophets, and the fulfillment of the Sabbath. And so, yeah, I don't think you can remove Christ from the Word. But I believe it's infallible and inerrant. But we can do that for another podcast.
Yeah, well, that's where you're wrong.
I said inerrant on purpose.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
No, I'm just struck by that there's very much examples of how to do government from Christians now. I don't hear any references to Jesus' life and ministry. It's all Old Testament. And I think that's worth pondering for the listener. Like, you can't find an example of Jesus advocating to use the state to accomplish kingdom of God stuff. And I challenge any listener to come back at me, like, where is that? Because that's important. I value Jesus' life and ministry over other parts of Scripture, without like discarding other parts of Scripture. But I'm not an inerrantist, and I think there's a difference there, obviously, which is a can of worms.
And it doesn't matter because we're so weak. We've been taken over by communist China, and everybody's been raped outside and killed. So if we would step outside, be beheaded, then we'll be because of our, we're Americans.
They're eating the dogs.
We're all done.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the dogs.
One step at a time.
All right, this has been an excellent episode, guys. Thanks for being here. I genuinely appreciate each and every one of you.
Thank you, Andy, for pressing the buttons.
Let's go. Thank you, Andy.
And
Yeah.
next time we'll do some listener feedback. I'm sure there's stuff to get to.
We will, and apologies for the late production issues that are happening here. We lost a camera tonight. We lost a good man. We lost a good camera tonight. He went down. But if you want to get in touch with us, there's a few ways to do it. brosbiblesbeer@gmail.com. You can email us.
Correct.
YouTube comments are our favorites. That's the best. You can get us there. Speakpipe.com/bros if you want to leave us a voicemail, and we will just play it on the air and we won't even listen to it first.
Yep.
So if you say really weird stuff, then
Quote Kanye lyrics.
yeah, quote Jeff lyrics. Either
Oh my gosh. Clip Jeff.
either one. You can do that
Just
too.
telling the truth here.
For Zach, Jeff, Carey, I am Andy. This is Bros, Bibles, and Beer. Grace,
Peace.
cheers.
Great pod.
Robust.
There's no perfect politician except for Trump. I'm kidding.
You couldn't even say it.
couldn't even
You should
say
have
it.
said it with a straight face first.
I should have looked at the
Then
camera.
we can clip it.
Why didn't
There's
you,
only been one.
Yeah.
why didn't
Only
you pause
one.
so I could say amen?
I'm sorry.
Only one.